Hello everybody, my name is Pravus, and welcome to a new indie strategy game called Rogue State Revolution. This was released very recently on March 18th, and is developed by a studio called Little Red Dog Games and published by Modern Wolf. And they were kind enough to reach out and offer to sponsor a series of videos showing off what this game has to offer. So for the next few days, we're going to be playing with Rogue State Revolution and see what we can accomplish. Of course, if you guys would like to learn more, there is going to be a link in the description down below. Now, the best way I can describe this game is it is a mix between an economic manager, right, like Anno or Tropico, and a political simulator. The premise is that we are the newly elected leader of a fledgling Middle Eastern state called Basenji, which is coming out of a revolution that overthrew the monarch. Our goal ultimately is to stay in power by whatever means necessary, ideally by meeting the needs of the people and becoming strong and prosperous, but we could be a bit of a tyrant if we so desired. However, there are many ways that power can be wrested away from us, in which case we lose and we'll have to start over again. But that's where this game actually has a little bit of a roguelike aspect to it. Maybe that's why it's called Rogue State, where we actually are kind of expected to fail, and we're going to have to start over with some new resources, new managers, trying to get a little bit closer every single time until we finally do achieve victory. So let's go ahead and start up a new game, and I will show you guys what this game is all about. There is a tutorial, not going to worry about that. I think I have at least an idea what to play, but I'm certainly no expert. There's quite a bit more that I do need to learn. We'll leave the storyline on, some news updates, and so on. I do want you guys to see a bit more of what this game has to offer, because there's a bit of tongue-in-cheek humor, which can be pretty fun. I am going to reduce the economics issue, so we'll have plenty of funds just to get us started, since it is our first game on the channel. So simply a normal difficulty. Nothing too crazy. All right, let's go ahead and get started. I will be President Pravus of Basenji, and let's see what we can do. Okay, so here's where the story is going to begin. Now, interestingly, because it's a bit of a roguelike and you're expected to restart, there's sort of this weird time loop where I, the president, get re-elected again and again. It's almost as if we just keep hitting some sort of grand reset button every time we lose or, well, die. So, yeah, that's going to be interesting. Anyway, let's just go ahead and jump into this. There are actually some live-action cutscenes, which is interesting, as shown right here. And this is kind of taking me back to some of my older days with, like, SimCity. Back before graphics really could develop too much, they had some live-action skits in exchange for cutscenes. That's kind of a fun little twist. Anyway, so we have to start by appointing our cabinet, and we have several different ministers that are going to be available at the beginning of the game, and several different offices within our country. So let's start with, let's say, the Ministry of Development. I'm going to go ahead and hire Aziz here. He is a conservative but secular person. There are a couple traits to him. He is frugal, which reduces construction costs, which can be good, since I likely will be developing quite a bit, especially at the beginning of the game. But he is cunning, and there's a chance he'll simply change policies that we are working on randomly based on whatever he thinks is going to be best. That could become a bit of a problem. I think I will put, let's say, Tariq in charge of the Ministry of Finance. He's conservative and secular. He's also a member of a ethnic minority, and there are some racial tensions in the game that we will have to address, so that's going to be important for us. Liberal and religious, a philanthropist. Her ministry operates with zero cost, but she's an addict, so every once in a while she'll go on some sort of a drug binge, and she'll disappear. Yeah, that's going to be a little bit of a problem. Maybe we put her in charge of the Ministry of Natural Resources. And let's see, we could go for Kareem. He is a liberal and secular, and put him in charge of the Ministry of Defense. All right, 4 advisors for 4 different offices. That leaves our Ministry of Citizenship, Foreign Affairs, and Justice empty, but we will fill those out later. That's going to be our starting cabinet, and eventually we will be able to unlock more ministers as we play. All right, so now we are in the game. And this is where we are going to be interacting with the 5 different regions of our state, and each one of these different provincial territories does have their own individual stats and needs. We have prosperity, we have safety, we have health, entertainment, education, and environment, and each one of these groups has their own different provincial approval. They have a certain number of workers we can work with, and each of these different people living here has their own different needs, belief systems. We have conservatives and liberals, we have religious and secular, we have immigrants, we have different races, the Basenjis and the Karifis, who might be at odds with each other. Yeah, there's lots of different groups that you have to try and cater to if you want to get re-elected. And to that extent, it reminds me a little bit of games like Democracy, where you do try to cater to several different demographics. So these are all things that we are going to have to worry about on a nationwide front, and there's several different ways that we can improve that. Biggest thing is we can spend money to build lots of stuff, right? So we can build some hospitals or airports, stadiums, power plants, lots of things that we'll have access to if we so desire. And because I started on an easier economic difficulty, we have access to quite a few things at the beginning of the game. But we are limited not only by our resources in the form of money, which are kind of like Basenji bucks, at least that's what I'm going to call them, but also actions, because this is a turn-based game. We have 4 actions that we can take every month or turn, and then we have to move on and get some more. To start off, let's take a look at this little flashing thing. We do not have enough power for our nation, and understandably, if you don't have the basic infrastructure to manage your power, well, people are going to get a little bit angry. So the first thing we probably should do is hook up our power plants to our oil refinery. And to that extent, what I will do is build up a quick road over here. And we could build it like this, and it's going to cost me a couple of Basenji bucks, so we just do this like so. But we could also spend the rest of that point to just go ahead and hook up another road like this. That way, everything is hooked up to the main arteries of our nation if we want. So there we go. Now we have oil being shipped into our power plants, and we are producing 100 power out of the 62 that is needed. But that took up 1 action in order to do so, okay? Now let's take a look at some resources over here, and this is where the economic management starts to come in. Our population at the beginning of the game is not asking for very much. We have a need for food. We need 47 food per turn in order to make people happy. And right now, we are not producing any of it. In fact, only the UN is providing food for us because they set up some nice, generous camps nearby because we are a new-ish state that overthrew its monarch, right? But we don't really want these guys to stick around forever. First off, we are not going to be producing our own food and selling it to our people, so it's hurting my economic ability. I can't make money by selling food to my people. It's also reducing approval, and it's also reducing prosperity. So we want to get rid of these UN camps when we can. But first and foremost, we need our own food supply. So let's go to construction, and every construction does take up 1 turn. So this is where you're going to be finding yourself gated by only so many things you can do every single month. We're going to start by building up some of our farms. This is going to cost 30 bucks. It does take some power, and it does take workers. And remember, every province has a finite number of workers currently. So we have to be careful not to build too many buildings in one place, or else we might find ourselves without enough people to go and get some jobs. That does change over time. You actually do gain workers over time in the latest patch of the game, but for now, this will be fine. So for the farm, where do we want to place this? Well, I'm kind of thinking we want to place it somewhere nearby some rural villages and stuff would be nice. I imagine they'd be pretty happy. This actually does increase rural approval simply placing this down. I guess over here in the grasslands wouldn't be so bad. Okay. Sure, let's go ahead and place one of these down. That cost me 30 bucks. And it's not going to produce food for me like right away, but soon-ish it will be producing a fair bit of food. We'll come back to that a little bit later, and if we are producing enough food, I can start dismantling some of these UN camps. There are different production chains we'll have to worry about eventually, though. So food is only one very basic, simple resource. We can refine that into something called processed food. If we get oil and process it into plastics, you can see the chain here telling you what to do, we can send those to manufacturing plants where they take my food and send that off to our cities. We're not demanding any of that right now, though, so that's not going to be very beneficial because I'm not producing goods to sell to my people if they're not demanding any of it. But the good news is, if you want to produce it anyway, well, maybe my neighbors would like to buy some. Let's take a look over here. Oh, good, we do have Tchaikinistan. I was hoping this is going to show up. So we have 3 neighbors at the beginning of the game. In this case, it's random. It's Tajikistan, or Tajikistan, how you want to say that. Tchaikinistan, which is actually a bit of that tongue-in-cheek humor. These guys actually have installed a rooster as their emperor. It's a weird political farce. It's complicated. And Kalshara. Each one of these nations can export some different goods to me based on what I need and what I'm willing to pay for, or rather what my people are willing to pay for. I don't buy any goods, but they have the rights to sell them to my people. The only problem is if my people are buying outside goods, they're not buying my goods. So we got to be taking that into account. But they also have their own needs. In this case, Tajikistan needs aluminum, gold, household goods, and luxury goods. Turkmenistan actually would like some processed food. So if I could start producing processed food, I may not be able to sell it domestically, but I could export it to Turkmenistan, and that would get me a fair chunk of money. Trade is crucial in this game. All right, so this is all just some of the basics as far as how money and stuff is going to be working. You have seen demographics already. We can assume that there are going to be several different ways of improving the opinion of several different demographics so that we can get reelected. We can also construct various different buildings, like, let's say, a nature preserve would improve the environment and the entertainment rating, for example, of a specific province, and that would all be pretty nice for me too. But then there's another element of political control, and that is through your ministers. Let's take a look at, for example, Tariq Badur, who is our Minister of Finance, and you can see we have some policies that we could change. So, for example, right now we have a relatively low prosperity value. What we could do is actually swap over to a regressive tax system, which gets me more money from the services consumed of the poor folk, which gets me more money than, let's say, a progressive tax system, which is really only useful if you have a very high prosperity value. So I'm going to swap over to this, and in doing so, I'm going to upset a lot of liberals, but this makes the most sense for early game money. Once I become more prosperous, maybe we swap over to a proportional tax system and then a progressive tax system, but you can see those different demographics respond differently to different policies. We also have minimum wage law. That could be a thing that we want to change up. Under natural resources, we can consume or we can ration our power. We can try not to exploit resources and be a better steward for the environment. These are all things we could do. We also have defensive policies. These are all useful. I'm not sure I'll worry about these right now. And development, there's actually several things to do here for transportation, for our telecommunications, healthcare, education. Yeah, lots of policies to worry about. And on top of these policies, each individual minister can research some different techs, which might make my nation a little bit stronger. So, for example, let's say that I wanted to work on a bus fleet. Now, this would cost me an extra 2 bits per turn, but I'm going to say bits, I guess, from here. It's really Basenji bucks. This would improve the environment as well as approval from urban and liberal, but upset the conservatives. We could work on some of that. It would take time to research. Could do that. What else we want to do over here? Let's see. Remove speed limits for entertainment value. Sure, we could get money. 15 Basenji bucks. If we were to place down some toll roads, but it does increase our traffic congestion, right? There's a lot of different things that all kind of feed off of each other to create your nation. Privacy laws, that could be kind of helpful, but it does reduce prosperity quite a bit. Not sure that's helpful. Spend a lot of money for entertainment and rural approval. Tempting. I think we're going to go ahead and start by getting, let's start by getting the bus fleet going. I think this is going to be reasonable enough for me. And then with our Ministry of Defense, let's go ahead and work on some recon training so our eventual military units have longer vision. For our natural resources, I think I will work on maybe ecological impact surveys, because I'm going to be exploiting resources a lot at the beginning of the game, and improving the environment for the cost of only 2 bucks per turn, I think is going to end up pretty useful. And then for finance, great question. What do we want to do here? How about state investments, tax credits? Maybe we go for the tax credits. Let's see if that ends up being very good for us. I don't know. All right, cool. Now, each individual minister does have a loyalty value, and you want these guys to be loyal to you. The more loyal they are, the faster they can do their research. Also, if you can complete favors for them, or some different tasks they give you, you can gain a favor and spend that favor to perhaps get some extra money via lobbyists, or to get some extra intelligence you can use for various things I'll come back to later. So you want to keep these guys happy. The problem I often find is they sometimes make very expensive requests that are difficult for me to actually meet. So sometimes these guys are going to lose loyalty regardless, and that does suck, but what can you do? I'm going to go over here to this province here in Sabah, and I can see that right now our health is absolutely atrocious. So for my last point with this turn, we're going to build down a hospital in this city right over here. And once this is built, which should happen right away, basically, we will see that the health value goes up by 1, so at least it's a little bit more manageable. Right now, though, we do have a deficit. I'm going to go over to our budget. And one thing we're going to do is go ahead and reduce how much we are spending on a few things. For example, in my capital of Banifa, we have pretty high ratings on a few things like public safety. If I can click you and move you, why can't I move you? Oh, it does take a turn to do so. Never mind, I'll come back to that next turn. Fine, let's move on to the next month. We'll come back to it, it's fine. Gonna be fine. Oh, cool, we have an event. Excellency, environmentalists are concerned about the poaching of a protected species of mountain goat. Okay, we can accept a bribe from the poachers, but it reduces environmental quality in Karif, or we can accept a lot of rural voters and spend a bit of money. I hate to lose environment, but I'm going to go ahead and just lose environment. We can build some gardens or something. Accept a bribe. We never said we were necessarily the good guys. Ah, one of our neighbors wants to talk to me. All right, we're kind of interrupting my flow of thought, but that's going to be okay. So this is General Khalil Sadi of Tajikistan, and he wants to initiate some trading. Right now, we have a pretty cordial relationship. This does improve if we can negotiate trade, either importing or exporting goods. We can have immigration for his people to legally cross into our borders, and eventually, with new policies, we'll be able to provide foreign aid, have free trade, and so on. This stuff is really, really important. We'll come back to all of this when I'm actually ready to do some trading, though. For now, we're okay. So let's go back to that budget I was talking about. So I'm going to pull back a little bit on a couple of these services where my numbers are already pretty high. I want to keep everything at 5 if we can, but above that, sure, we can go ahead and reduce a little bit. So this saves me a little bit of money, but we could spend money in order to improve ratings in an emergency situation. For right now, though, cash is king. From here, we also will be able to issue bonds, and if we had a really good influence with the international community, maybe get an international monetary fund loan, but we have to pay interest on these. These are kind of more of emergency situations when I don't have enough money. For now, I'm okay with what we got. So we're just going to go ahead and adjust the budget, and I'll commit to that to show you how it works. Now let's take a look at our food. So right now, it looks like our cities are being supported by 62 food from the UN camps. We're not actually eating any of my own food. Now that sucks because this is a nationalized industry, and if I can sell food to my own people, I get money. So I would rather start selling 55 food to my own people. Let's get rid of some of these UN camps. We should not need these. Say goodbye. I think that maybe this does slightly impact your like international standing by reducing this, but I think I'll take that risk. These guys are producing 18 food each, huh? So if I get rid of 3 of you, for example, I think we will be producing enough food that we are still going to be A-okay. And down over here, actually, I'll just go ahead and build one more farm. We'll place it down over here. Having plenty of food is never a bad thing. Worst come to worst, if we have an excess of food, I can just sell it to my neighbors, right? And this does, of course, make the rural people happy, and based on the villages I'm seeing out here, I think there are quite a few in this region, so that seems all right. Okay, other things that we may want to build up. Let's see. So first off, I'm seeing we have quite a few problems in quite a few places. Let's, do we want to go for more income, or do we want to just go ahead and improve the country? Right now, I think we're in a bit of a honeymoon period, and people aren't going to be ousting me right away. So I'd rather start setting myself up to make myself a lot of money. And one good way of doing that at the beginning of the game is hotels. Now, hotels actually are based off of an attractiveness value, and there are several different lenses we can look at to learn more about our country. Attractiveness, you can see right here, tells us where a hotel would actually be very high value because, well, the area looks nice. Right? So we like this area, for example, along the river, but mostly we're going to care, I think, about the coastal territories down over here. So this is where we want to place down a hotel. There are other lenses like pollution, which will become very important as you industrialize. Traffic on the main roads, and if there's a lot of traffic, then that makes people upset and also slows down your economy. Aridness, so you know where you can place down farms, and approval from your people. We probably don't need to worry about that, though, right? Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, okay, so where are we going to place down our hotel? Great question. Probably over in this city. So let's go ahead and do that now. Hotel has to be placed next to a town, not a village, and this is the only town in this region of Rumai that I am seeing, so I guess we have no choice. It will have to go right down here as close to the coast as possible for as much attractiveness as possible. So that's going to get placed down. And to start off, it is a 2-star hotel because it doesn't have an absolutely amazing attractiveness rating, but it is something. It's going to get me 7 extra bucks per turn. Cool. We can improve that a little bit if we wanted to place down, let's say, an international airport. We can only ever have one, and this does take a lot of jobs. So notice down here, if we place this, we will go down to 12 jobs out of the 20 workers we currently have available. I'm kind of okay with placing this nearby, though. I do think that it is worth having the international airport somewhere. We'll go ahead and place it a little bit further down, I guess. Kind of like this? Sure. I want it to be able to access tourists and such to the rest of the country, but for now, keeping it close to the hotel does make some sense. Be wary of traffic, though. That can become a problem. And now we are out of turns, so we're going to have to move on to the next turn and see what we can do. What's the next event going to be? Well, our Ministry of Development actually is requesting something. They want a public garden built in Saba. If we can do so, we improve loyalty just a tiny bit, but if we fail to do so after a certain number of turns, we lose a lot of loyalty, and that can become a problem. The good news is Saba is a place I already want to have some extra environment, so let's go over here to construction and place down a public garden as requested, and place it, let's say, I don't know, how about right over here? This should be fine. The public garden is going to increase the environmental value of the area as well as some entertainment. It doesn't take any jobs. It's relatively cheap, so that's pretty easy for me to do, and it does increase that environmental rating up to something manageable. But the good news is, because we were able to fulfill his desires, right, we get a little bit of extra loyalty, and he automatically finishes the policy, in this case, the bus fleet. So we're going to spend a bit of money, and conservatives are unhappy, but environment pretty much everywhere should be going up as a result. Now we can move on to another policy. What would I like? Great question. Well, we could go for privacy laws. This does reduce prosperity a lot, but it does improve my rule of law, which is important for our international standing. Rural approval with clean water, that could be pretty helpful. Let's see. Mandatory masks, only good if there's a pandemic. Exchanges from needles, nutrition program. There we go. This would actually improve education and health for a lot of people. That could be helpful. Alternatively, we could go for, let's say, eco-research grants. We can improve the environment that way. Diplomatic school? Ah, there we go. International diplomacy. This seems useful. Sure, let's go ahead and start working on that policy next. I like it. Gonna be A-okay. How are we doing on food, by the way? We should be producing quite a bit. I think because of this farm here producing another 55, we can get rid of the remaining UN camps, so let's go ahead and do that. Say goodbye to some of those. Thank you. We're going to get rid of this as well. Okay, so this is just some of the very basic setups that we're doing right now, but there's more we need to worry about. I do want to exploit more resources in my nation, and the best way we can do that at the beginning of the game is go to my palace right over here, and we are going to hire a surveying unit. This will take up 1 turn and some bucks to hire, but that's A-okay. And now we have a civilian unit whose job is to go around exploring for resources. We actually see there might be a deposit of something right here. So we're going to pack him up and move him over this way. And then we're going to spend another one of our points exploring here and see if we got anything useful. We found another deposit of oil. Okay, that could be very, very helpful for me. There are other resources you can get. Bauxite, which actually can become aluminum. Gold or uranium if you want to build, let's say, nuclear reactors, and maybe some less benign things, and these are things you can do. Let's see, we have any other deposits nearby? The nearest one that I see is actually over here, so we will have him spend the next few turns running over to this deposit. Okay, I've got 1 more turn left. What would I like to get? Well, the environment over here is actually taking a pretty big dump, and we should probably improve it. So I'm going to spend a fair bit of money building up a nature preserve. We can only build 1 per province, but it's a huge boost to our environment, and a fair bit of entertainment value comes out of it as well. So let's go ahead and place you, let's say, right along here. There we go, a nice nature preserve, all right? So at least nothing is in the red. That's certainly good. I'd like to continue increasing prosperity, but for now, this all seems reasonable. How is this hotel doing over here? Still only making 2 stars. It has actually increased up to 8 bucks thanks to the airport bringing in some tourism. We can boost this up, though, if we want to increase the attractiveness of the area with some more, let's say, parks and such, or maybe increase the entertainment value. All things we can do if we want to get a little bit of extra cash. What's our next event? Let's see. Excellency, the International Criminal Court has issued an arrest warrant for Dat Wah, a revolutionary in our fight against the monarchy and a conservative icon. For charges of committing crimes against humanity during the war, Oda currently serves as a general. Okay. So the international community really wants me to do this. If I do, I lose a bit of rule of law and I lose loyalty from military units, which I currently don't have. Or I can refuse to extradite him and I lose a lot of influence with the international community. Yeah, I can't afford to do that. We're going to go ahead and hand him over to an international criminal court. But because he is a war criminal, it just makes me look bad. There was really no winning this situation, and that's where some rotten luck really does come into play. Okay, so now we're self-sustaining as far as our food. Let's take a look at our budget. We can see that our industry of food is actually producing 15 of our Basenji bucks, and that's because, based on the demand of our people, they are buying my food currently. All right, we are, however, producing 110, which is a bit of an excess. So, do I want to export? Does anyone want any food? Interestingly enough, no. Nobody actually wants any food from me. Okay, so the best thing I can probably do is start taking some of this food and processing it into processed food, which we can then sell elsewhere. So let's set up a basic production chain this time. I want to get some more oil, I want some plastic, and I want some manufacturing plants. Let's go ahead and go to construction. We do want to place down another one of those oil refineries right where I discovered some oil over here. There it is. So we'll start with some of that. I will need to build some more roads. That's going to take one of my turns. That's unfortunate, but what can you do? We'll go ahead and build it into the city like so. It's a dirt road to start, and we actually can click on the roads and spend money to upgrade them to improve traffic. But I'm not worried about that right now. Congestion should be relatively minor. Next, we're going to go ahead and build one of those plastics factories. Okay, so maybe one out over here. Sure, should be fine. If we decentralize the economy a little bit, we shouldn't have to worry about, one, taking up too many jobs, and two, too much traffic congestion. So this is going to be taking some of that excess oil and creating plastics, but right now we have nothing to do with those plastics. So I'm going to now build a manufacturing plant with my last turn and a few more of our bucks. And I'm going to go ahead and continue the chain, traveling on down this way, except it has to be next to a city, so right over here should be fine. Okay, so now we're going to have a manufacturing plant. And what do we want to produce there? Of course, the processed goods. There we go. Okay, so next turn, what we're going to do is see some actual changes going on here where food gets diverted, plus the oil gets plastics, and the plastics go to the processed food, and boom, all of a sudden, we're going to have a new good to work with. No one's demanding it, so I'm not going to make any money selling it domestically until that demand goes, but we should be able to export and make buku bucks. Yeah, so you go ahead and travel. Let's increase the speed a little bit. There we go. Thank you, Mr. Surveyor. Okay. So, right now, we actually are prioritizing sending food to our people based on their needs. Right now, they demand 107. We're only producing 109. So, only 2 food is actually able to go over to our manufacturing plant. That's not a lot. We need another farm. But at least we are meeting our current needs. Let's get one more farm going. And we've been building over here a lot lately. Where's somewhere else we can build? How about right over here? There you go. Next to a village and stuff. It just kind of improves some of that rural opinion a little bit. And now we'll produce another 55 food, which should be enough for us to be producing 57 processed food. I could actually try to produce even more food, but for now, let's just stick with that. And let's see how that's going to go. All right, so soon that's going to be a new production chain for me. Let's go to diplomacy here. And let's see. We have poor relations with Turkmenistan. We could try to improve that a little bit. And I don't want them to declare war on me. Bad relations mean things go horribly wrong. So we're going to try to improve that a little bit. Yep, Turkmenistan. They do, in fact, have Emperor Rusty the First. Yeah, there's a long, silly story about this that basically had kind of a shadow government or some political figures who put a chicken as the head of state as sort of a joke, and then they actually just kind of let him be the dictator. Obviously, people make, you know, the actual decisions, but yeah, he sort of is continuing a charade as being ruled by a rooster. It's really, really funny. Anyway, ooh, this is new actually in the latest patch. It has changed. Okay, so to Pitsenji or to Turkmenistan. Well, we want to export some food. Processed food, I should be able to produce a fair bit. The max we can trade with them is going to be 40. And doing so will increase my income by a whopping 14. So that's going to be fine. In order to do so, though, we will need to get a road set up to them. So that's okay. And by having some trade relations, we are going to increase our relation with them. Trade is a great way to encourage your neighbors not to attack. What's this?
Does the chicken talk, or?
I think it just clucks and they pretend they understand what it's saying.
So this is what? A big joke? Everybody's in on it?
Yeah, but they're so in on it that it's not a joke anymore.
How long do chickens live?
I think they just replace the chicken every few years and hope nobody notices.
I would notice.
I know you would notice, Yusuf. I know.
Those are actually your 2 advisors, and every once in a while you get fun little things like that from them, so that's kind of cool. All right, let's go ahead and build up a road because I do need to set that up here with Turkmenistan. Boom, and there we go. Now that we actually do have that set up, we will get a lot of money thanks to our trade. We can see international exports plus 15, so now we're looking pretty solid over there. Okay, not bad. So this is just kind of a first video introduction. There's a lot more that I need to show you guys. For example, let me quickly place down, if I can find it. Where did I get the military base? There we go. Let's go ahead and place down a quick military base because I know I'm going to need one of those in the future. There's a lot we have to do as far as tracking down some potential revolutionaries and terrorists. We have to prepare for any military conflicts. We want to continue expanding our economy, international diplomacy, maybe picking a side between one of the major world superpowers, integration of the ethnic minorities and trying to resolve those old tensions. Yeah, there's a lot more that we will need to do. But the good news is I'm sponsored to do this for a full week so we can take our time and properly dive into this game and really have a bit of fun with it. So thank you all very much for watching. I do hope you enjoyed. If so, then I would humbly ask that you hit that like button. Don't forget to take a look at the link in the description down below if you would like to learn more about this game. And of course, subscribe if you'd like to see my future content. My name is Pravus, and I will see you guys next time in Besenji.